It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview John Hartofilis, who is the owner of Gen Z Hoops basketball podcast. How are you doing today?
And I'm having a great day. Really thankful they asked me to come on and just, you have an awesome show going on. I mean, just congrats to you on all the episodes you've done. I mean, it's super impressive. And can't wait to jump right into everything with you.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to start a basketball sports podcast?
100%, definitely. I mean, basketball's always been a huge passion of mine. I mean, just going back to, playing it as a kid, all that stuff, and really just having a lot of trial and error with basketball, right? I talk about this a good amount, but I got cut from the freshman, JV, and varsity teams as a freshman, sophomore, and junior, made the team as a senior, and I got asked to come back and coach. So it's kind of been this like kind of love-hate relationship with basketball. I've always kind of loved basketball, and maybe basketball didn't always love me back. But basically, I finally end up starting to coach, and it's like that. Like that's kind of like where this whole awakening for me happens, right? It's like, okay, wow, I really do enjoy. I love this thing. Whether it's making it or coaching or just being having all those emotions, right, surrounded by the game. It just kind of made me go from someone that was a fan to someone that was just like absolutely obsessed, right? I went from someone that just followed the NBA, watched basketball, played basketball, to like I had to go through so much to make that team and to coach and do all that stuff. It's kind of become my entire life. So through that. One of my best friends in college, Jesse K, he had his own podcast called 20 Under 20s, and then now it's called Trendsetters. He doesn't post that much anymore. Jesse, if you're listening, please start posting more. I love watching your videos. But basically, Jesse and I are best friends from college. We met freshman year, and he was having on all these cool guests. He was meeting all these cool people. He was doing all these cool things. And I was like, that's just so cool. And this is back to freshman year. This was 2 years ago, a year before the pandemic happened. And we went to a Bucks game. And Mike, so I'm Greek American. You could tell from the Giannis jersey behind me. And I've met Giannis a few times. We go to every single game that he plays in New York City. He comes out. He sees the fans. He's very nice to us. He's come to some of our games, or I've the camps that we've done with him. But basically, right, all these players are coming out. And all the kids are going crazy over Tony. This is back in the time. Chris Middleton, Tony Snell. I think Matthew Dellavedova was on the team at the time, right? Guys like that. Mike Budenholzer comes out, right, and he's not 6'10". He's not one of those guys. So no one really says anything to him. He's just walking by. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be awesome, right? Me being this, I'm 18 years old. I'm a high school coach. To go up to him and say, "Hey, Mr. Budenholzer, I love this after timeout you ran in the second quarter. Blah blah blah. This is so great. Like, wouldn't that be really cool?" And I told Jesse this, who was next to me, and he goes, "Or you could ask him to come on your podcast." And I was like, "I don't have a podcast, obviously, right?" So that was why he said that. So that's where it kind of got started to me, and I tried starting a show, and it was called. I tried to mess with some Bucks related stuff just because I liked Giannis. I thought that'd be my cool niche. I went with this show called The Freak Show. You cannot find it anywhere now because I did one episode and gave up and quit, which is a problem, right? And that's something that I made amends for recently. But at the time, it really bothered me that I started a show. I had some stuff going. I tried some different names. The thing is, I didn't even post it on my social media. I was so nervous and scared of the reaction that other people think, like, oh, what's John doing? Why is he doing that podcast? That I kind of, kept it, that I swept it under the rug and kind of forgot about it. The pandemic hit, right? Obviously, a year later, I'm still coaching, I'm still doing all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I have no excuse now. I have all this time. Right, everyone's home. I have to do something. And still, even with that happening, 2-3 months passed. During that time, Jesse actually, so he also started the Making Lemonade Fund. I was helping with that. And I met all these cool people who they had their own shows. They had their own sports business clubs. They had their own they had all this cool stuff going for them. And I was like, okay, why can't I do this, right? If I just go all in, I could do this. So then June came. My birthday is June 21st. I'm like, you know what? No matter what, and this is advice for anyone in terms of just do it. Everyone says just do it. You need a deadline. If you don't have a deadline, just do it. Could be just do it in a month, and then that turns into never. I said, no matter what happens, I'm posting a podcast. I'm posting an episode. And actually, I said I'm going to record 3 episodes and post them this day on June 20th. No matter what, my birthday is on June 21st. I'm starting the show as a 19-year-old. I'm posting the show. So that's what happened. I posted the show. Maybe it wasn't the best. It was I tried doing player breakdowns. I liked some players. I did these 15-minute full on statistical analysis stuff, right? So I had all these advanced stats that I thought were super interesting, and I kind of broke them down. Now, what I didn't realize is that those were kind of boring. And I had good friends that told me, hey, John, your stuff's kind of boring. You should, it's putting me to sleep. I almost died on the road because I was listening to it and I passed out on the wheel, right? Obviously it didn't happen, but people were telling me stuff like that. So I had to pivot. So I thought, okay, I've done a few episodes. This is like going into August. I 2 months in, I was around episode 7, 8. I think episode 8 was when I had on one of my childhood high school coaches. I thought to myself, okay, I'm having on, my friends and stuff. It's fun. But if I want to make this serious, I have to start getting big time guests. And how do you do that, right? I don't have these huge connections. I don't have, right? I mean, my high school coach is cool. I love all these people, but at a certain point, I need to start reaching out to people that I don't know. I have to start doing networking, right? Which is a scary word for all of us high school and college aged kids, right? Gen Z. Networking is scary. All your parents tell you about networking. Everyone makes it sound like it's fun, and I'm about to make it sound like it's fun, but you hate, right? I know that all of you hate it, and I get that, right? Everyone hates networking because it's scary. But I thought, you know what? I could try Instagram DMs. It's not going to work, right? I'm not verified. I at the time I had under 1,000 followers. No matter how many, I mean, even if I had more, it wouldn't have mattered, right? Celebrities aren't going to open up your DMs. It's much harder. LinkedIn, on the other hand, though, I realized, okay, if I make an awesome LinkedIn profile, right? And because I was doing some cool stuff, I did Making Lemonade, I did some other cool stuff. My LinkedIn profile was starting to get pretty good. And this is my brand, and I back this brand. I don't just say, oh, I have a podcast. It's big, it's a small podcast. I have to hype my podcast up, right? I don't just coach. I could obviously say I coach high school freshman basketball. It's whatever, but no, like that's my team. Like I love my team. I'm not gonna belittle. I'm gonna raise them up. Like they're an awesome team, right? I love those guys. Same thing with the show. So I took a lot of pride in what I was doing, made it look really good on my LinkedIn profile. And now when you looked at my LinkedIn profile, even though this is back then and there's more stuff on there now, you saw that and you said, okay, wow, this guy's for real. In some way, he has a passion, he has an outline, he has a vision, he's for real. So then in August, I started reaching out to some to a bunch of guests, and obviously some were responding faster than others. Some the first few guests were like Alan Stein Jr., Tyrone Nesby came on right away, who used to play with Jordan, Coach Ty Ellis from the from the Stockton Kings. Oh my God. I mean, there were so many people that were just so gracious and coming on right at the start when I had no guests at all at the time. So all that was happening. I had Coleman Ayers was my first guest, actually. He's a YouTuber, about 250,000 subscribers, right? Maybe not the biggest in terms of volume, but he's a year older than me. He's 21 years old. Actually, now he's 22, but he's 22. I'm still 20. And he's a YouTuber from Atlanta who maybe people don't know about, but to me, he was like a celebrity because for 3 years, right, since he started on YouTube, I was watching his videos, trying to get better at basketball myself. So now I'm talking to him, I'm like, and now we're kind of friendly, right? We text. He's coming to New York at the May 1st for a clinic, and I cannot wait. Like he's coming up to New York. I hit him up. I'm like, dude, I'm bringing a bunch of my freshmen. This is gonna be so much fun. Like I'm so excited you're coming up. He's like, yeah, man, like that's awesome. Like bring your guys. It's gonna be a great day. Whatever. Like we'll talk all this stuff. And right, that's kind of like something that I never thought would happen, and that's obviously happened a lot more times since then with all the guests I've had on the show. So really, in terms of, I know I don't want to go too far into the story because I know you have all these questions, but that's kind of how it got started to me. Where I was like, you know what, I have to do something. I have no excuse. There's never an excuse, but definitely with COVID, there's no excuse not to do something. And that's kind of where it all started. I started reaching out to guests, and it was kind of like a domino from there on out.
That's an amazing story on how you got started. Of course, how did you come up with the name Gen Hoops?
So originally it was Big Fellas Basketball. And the reason for that was obviously a bunch of my friends, or it was just kind of like a thing where like, we would always say, oh, big fella, right? I'm 6'4". People call me the big fella. It was kind of like, it was kind of like a silly joke. And that's what a lot of shows maybe are, right? I mean, your show has a professional name. Gen Z Hoops is not a professional name, but at the beginning, right? Big Fellas Basketball is a little, childish. And I liked it because it was fun. It was lighthearted. People still text me all the time and say, dude, I miss Big Fellas Basketball, man. Like, I know Gen Z Hoops is your thing. I know it's professional. I know it's better. I know it's a better name, but please at some point bring back Big Fellas back. Like do something, right? I still have a t-shirt that says Big Fellas, but everyone loves it. Like everyone kind of fell in love with the name because it was just fun. It just kind of rolled off the tongue better. It looked good on Instagram. It was a good time. But I realized that I needed some change in December. I had already done 6 months of the show. I had 50 episodes at the time. And I realized, you know what, like I need to make this more professional. And that's why, if you see the picture behind me, right, this one's a portrait shot of me and it looks good and it's me coaching and all that stuff. And it's kind of fun, Big Fellas Basketball. But Gen Z Hoops, on the other hand, is much more professional, right? It's me in a suit with a basketball. It's this idea of young professionals, right? And that's kind of what my niche was before that. But now it's kind of like, it's like everything, right? that's my pitch on when I reach out to people. It's not that, hey, I have a podcast, it's fun, it's a joke, I want you to come on and we'll just talk about anything, we'll just talk basketball, we'll just shoot, for lack of a better word, what most people would say is quote unquote shoot the shit, right? That's not what I do on my show. We don't shoot, there's no shoot shit, there's no shit shooting on Gen Z Hoops, right? It's much more, obviously we have fun, it's much more lighthearted, but there's also this level of professionalism and this level of learning that comes from it. That's kind of what I wanted, is that's kind of, it's for young professionals by a young professional. And that's kind of, and I like everyone that I was, right, the Making Lemonade that I was doing back at the beginning of the year, it was all about, we're Gen Z, right? We're college students. We're part of the difference. We're young people. We're 20, 21, 22, and we're gonna be part of the problem, not the solution, right? This whole idea of Gen Z. The way that a lot of my this conference next gen, which I was virtual this year, it's going to be hopefully in person in the future. It's all about Gen Z, right? The Gen Z has kind of been like this big buzzword, and I was shocked to see that there's a couple of shows called with Gen Z in the title, but very few are that's going to be my niche, right? I'm a basketball guy. I'm Gen Z. That's who I am. Those are two important things to me, right? That I'm a young professional, that I'm into basketball. Let me put those ideas together, right? Let me marry those two ideas. And that's how Gen Z Hoops was born.
Of course, can you talk about how the transition from being the big fellas basketball to Gen Z, and what the transition of transitioning from, of course, brands?
Oh, 100%. And like for me, it's kind of funny. I try to be very organized and prepared for everything I do, but I do need that. It's not so much like cramming or kind of like that it's that pressure really that people would say, like, doing an essay at the last minute. And I'm very, I try to be as organized as possible. If you see my Google Drive, it's all these folders, the episodes, and everything's in a neat and organized place. My room, I mean, it's not just like this for the show. It's like this all the time because that's just, I'm a neat freak. But at the same time, I do need that little bit of chaos to really get me going. So the Gen Z Hoops maybe wasn't even an idea until I want to say like December 27th. And we launched on January 1st. So that's like kind of what I need. Like I launched with Drew Hanlon on December 28th, episode 50. And I just looked at the numbers and I was like, episode 50, right? We're going into the new year, 2020. Everyone says like, the whole like New Year's resolutions, all that stuff. But like, obviously it was just kind of this whole thing. Like I have this chance for a fresh start. In terms of the inspiration to do a daily show, I had on two guests in the past that have their own daily shows, in Dre Baldwin and Kevin Tarka. So Dre Baldwin's a big YouTuber. He's been on YouTube probably since like 2006, 2007, like since the start of YouTube, making basketball videos. He has millions of views. Like he's huge, but he's been doing a daily show for the last 6 years, right? So he's at like episode like 2000 something. And his whole thing is, if you want me to show you that I'm dedicated, right? If you ask me if I'm dedicated, I'm going to show you that I'm dedicated. I'm not just going to tell you I'm dedicated, right? Like, Brandon, I can come on this show, right, and tell you I love basketball, right? Oh, Brandon, I love basketball. But if I didn't I need to prove it to you. You don't know, your listeners, right? If you don't talk to me for more than 30 seconds, how would you ever know that from the first 5 seconds I tell you, oh, hi, I love basketball, right? I could be lying to you. I could not, maybe I don't know who Michael Jordan. That could just be a complete lie. After you get to know me, you start to realize, oh, wow, like John eats and breathes this thing. John loves this thing, right? Of course. But the quick way to show my guests, or to show someone I talk to in a networking setting, or just anyone that I come across, it's this show, right? It's the fact that, hey, you want to know how much I love basketball? I did 150 episodes in obviously the last 8 months. I've done 100. Episode 100 is going to be this Saturday because it's the 100th day of the year. So obviously January 1st was episode 1. January 2nd was episode 2, and so on. Episode 100 is coming up on this Saturday. We've done one every single day. And that's my way of saying, okay, you want to know if I can work hard? Sure. Maybe if you went to high school with me, you'd know I got cut from the team and I made it. And I'm the only person to do that. And it means a lot to me, and cool. Right. My mother knows I work hard because she loves me and she sees me every day. Right. My mom knows that, but not everyone's going to know that. This show kind of was a way to do that. And that's kind of a reason why, like, behind the rebranding. In terms of like the craze to do it, oh my God! I mean, those 3 days were incredible. I mean, there's some great people that like Sarah, who helped me with the graphics. A lot of people that were really beneficial in getting it off the ground. But maybe it was graphics, it was getting the social medias all cleaned up, it was figuring out what's the plan going to be. Right, I can't go into this without a scheduling plan. So my scheduling plan was, let me do Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. I'll do my interviews like I've been doing. Right, originally I started doing 1 a week. Then I had so many guests, I went to 2, then to 3, and at a point in October, November. Guests were waiting a long time. They were waiting like 3-4 weeks to get their show posted because I had like 15 in the queue. So I was like, okay, I got to hold up. I have to like start reaching out. I got to cut down a little bit, and then we'd get a little close, and then there'd be a little moment of like, oh my, some anxiety of like, what if I don't have any guests? And then I would just go on LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn's my happy place. On a Sunday morning, nothing's better than some LinkedIn connection, right? Some good old LinkedIn networking. And then all of a sudden I refill the queue again with all these amazing people. I'm like, okay, you know what? Wow, this is what the brand can do and what positive networking can do, because I'm showing them my best self, and these guests like it, and they gravitate towards that. So yeah, just with the show, I mean, that's kind of what the rebranding was all about. It was hectic, it was crazy, but it happened, and I'm so happy for it. And then now, obviously, we'll talk about it later. But in terms of kind of like not rebranding, but kind of just transitioning to Gen Z Podcast Network. Obviously, Gen Z Hoops is still going to be around, but I'm trying to make it into a network with multiple shows. That's going to happen right now. I'm actually in the process of doing that right now, and I'm having the same little period of craziness where we're doing graphics and we're doing Instagrams, and now obviously there's other people involved, so I have to communicate that with them. But definitely a lot going on. And I mean, there's so much to jump into with that. Or even with the Gen Z Hoop transition that I kind of skipped over, like, the people that did division breakdowns that joined. And I was doing, at the beginning, I was doing daily breakdowns. And I realized that wasn't really working. I kind of, pivoted again, kind of like what I did at the beginning with player breakdowns. And then I went to interview style. I was doing the interview style and doing daily breakdowns in the NBA, and 2-3 minutes, everything you need to know about what happened last night. And I realized, like, it's fun. Like, I'm enjoying that. But it's not the best content. It's not the best way for people to learn. Division breakdowns with a guest, right? And that guest being one of the people that I reached out to via LinkedIn, who now they're my division experts because they follow that division all season long. That's a lot more fun, and that's what I've been doing so far. And it's I mean, Gen Z Hoops is going great, and I'm just super happy that it's turned out the way it has.
Can you talk about a little bit about the network that you created?
100%. So I mean, we haven't. It's not fully there yet. Right now we have Gen Z Rockets, Gen Z Warriors, and Gen Z 76ers. Gen Z Rockets is with our host Nima Zavadzadeh. He's been our division expert for the last few months, and he's great. He's super smart. He's currently graduating from Syracuse, going to be going to Columbia for his master's degree. Just obviously just a genius. I mean, we went to a sports business class together, and he was one of the top finishers in the trade deadline scenario. So he's just killing it. And he's just super smart. And when I met him, I was like, this guy, he's a huge Rockets fan, had his own Rockets show called Rocket Science. And he's transitioning over to, he changed everything to come over to the network, to Gen Z Rockets. I'm super excited to have him on board. He's a beast. So, I mean, he's awesome. So I'm really excited about that. Then Gen Z Warriors, we have Ananya Raghavan. She's a statistician for the Warriors. So the whole thing with her, she came back on in December. It was all through the LinkedIn job posting I had up, and she reached out, said she was interested in helping out with the show. And I was like, okay, you know what? You work for the Warriors, you do all this stuff. Let's have you doing the Pacific Division, right? So she was doing that for January, February, and March. And then in April, I'm like, okay, we got it. Like, I said this at the beginning, how I wanted to do a show. Let's finally do it, right? Like it's been the white works. We've both improved so much at speaking, at all this stuff. Let's get this thing going. So we started Gen Z Warriors. It should be on Apple Podcasts in the next few days. We're waiting to get approved. And then once that's a go, she'll be doing episodes nonstop, which I'm really excited for. And then Chris D'Ambrosio is doing Gen Z 76ers. He's super smart. I feel like I'm saying that about all three. I mean, all of them are really smart. They're all much smarter than me. But Chris is a sophomore at Harvard. He's just obviously, like I said, a genius, just top of his class. And he's been a Sixers fan his whole life. He's been doing the Atlantic Division for us since January, like Ananya was doing the Pacific Division. And he's just, like I said, a beast, right? He's just super smart. He's been killing it every week in and week out. And I'm super excited to have him on talking about the Sixers. They're all three of them are super passionate about the teams they're covering. They're going to have on whether it's executives from their team. We actually had a call yesterday. I was kind of telling them like what this plan could be. I was like, you go to your schools, go to whatever, and look up like alumni that work for these teams, right? Because we're going so niche into these teams. Have on anyone from these teams. If someone works in any capacity for a team, right? If you're talking about specifically those fans, that's interesting. Another thing is going on each other's shows. I was like, okay, the Warriors play the Rockets on whatever it is, the end of April. Ananya and Nima go on each other's show and talk about that, right? That's awesome. So that kind of thing is what I think is really, really cool. And I think there's a lot of potential for this to grow. And I'm hoping to do more shows with more teams over the next few months. So obviously we have a bunch of division experts, Zach Carson, Spencer Frank, Curtis Johnson, to name a few. They're the other three division experts. Zach's obviously he very close with the Bucks organization, currently works for the Lakeland Magic. Curtis does game day stuff for the Memphis Grizzlies. So he's obviously all about them. And then Spencer Frank coaches high school basketball up in California. I mean, he's just a huge fan of everyone in general. He speaks, great voice, does a really good job. So all these guys I mean, it was really tough because there were so many people that applied for that LinkedIn thing. And it was kind of weird. It's like application, internship, like those words. But like right now we're all friends, right? Whatever those words, whatever like that was the case, like in the end of December, like within a week, I think I told all of them when I first met them, like, by the way, like this is going to be the most fun thing ever. Like this is going to be fun. I like we're going to be friends at the end of this, right? Like, for example, my sister got into Northeastern. She's going to Boston to visit. Obviously Chris is up there at Harvard. I'm like, dude, I'm coming up to Harvard. Like, let's go out, let's go get lunch, whatever it is. Nima's now moving to the city to go to Columbia. He's visiting in, I think, a month to pick out his apartment. I was like, dude, when you come down to Columbia, like we're going out to we'll go catch a Knicks game. We'll do something, like whatever it is, like when you're here. Same thing with all these other, I mean, obviously, like they're on the other side of the world, like Ananya's on the West Coast. Maybe we'll set, at some point there'll be an event that we all go to or something. There's other guys, obviously, down in Florida. Curtis is in Memphis, right? All these people all over the world. But that's what I think is so fun about this, is that there's this huge network of, right, we're all Gen Z. We're all between the ages of 18 and 24, whatever it might be. Obviously, Gen Z is much wider than that, but I'm kind of focusing on that college age student right now. Because a lot of the younger, my cousins maybe that are 12, 13, 14, 15, they're still Gen Z technically, but it's a little bit, there's still a little bit of a gap within the generation. But obviously, that's just kind of what I think is super fun, is that we're all Gen Z. We all kind of have this passion around basketball. Obviously, everyone's with their specific team, but that's how we're going to branch out. And the cool thing is, like right now, all my listeners are kind of based in New York because that's where I'm from. All my friends listen. All my players listen. That's kind of my main follower base. Once we have shows, right, I think of Ananya's show, Gen Z Warriors, on all the way over in San Francisco, all her listeners now are going to listen to Gen Z Hoops because it's the network, and they're going to hear about me, even though they wouldn't have, because we're 3,000 miles apart. And all my listeners from now that are currently listening are going to say, well, I've always liked the Warriors. Let me go listen to Ananya's show. Or, oh, Ananya was on Gen Z Hoops doing the Pacific Division, and I loved what she had to say. She's so smart. She does such a great job. She's so thorough in her analytical breakdown. Let me go over there and listen to Gen Z Warriors, right? So that's kind of what I'm hoping to get out of all this. I hopefully by the summer, right, by June, we're in full force, like with more than, I want more than 6 shows, right? We're doing 3 now, 3 by the beginning of May. I want to be like at least, I want to be halfway through the league, right? I mean, I obviously had to shoot really high. I want to get all these shows set up. Have to figure out how to do that exactly in terms of how to find people that are young, that are affiliated with these teams in some way, that are obviously, whether it's super fans or they work for the team. They're obviously in the age group. Would love to have them on and do that show. So that's my big goal for the next month or 2, is finding those people. And once we do, I think it'll be a great network, and it's gonna be a lot of fun for everyone involved.
That's amazing. Who are some of the guests that you have had on that are notable?
I mean, I'm going to hurt some feelings right now. Brady, putting me on the spot. I'm kidding. I mean, there's been a lot of guests. There's 150 episodes in total. As of this Saturday, when episode 100 comes out, because it's the 100 plus the 50 from Big Fellas Basketball. But in those, there's been about, I would say, 80 to 90 interviews because of all the division breakdowns, right? Maybe closer to actually 95, 100 actually. Whatever the case might be, there's been so many great guests from the NBA, G League, WNBA, international leagues, the NCAA, obviously, just high school coaches, just really all over the board. In terms of the guests that really stand out, I mean, for me, obviously, like I said, I can kind of go through like the kind of first or the oh my god moments, or the kind of funny stories. Coleman Ayers, obviously, my first guest I networked with. He was huge for me. Like I was jumping up and down when he came on the show. Before that, Brandon Steiner would come on episode 5. Jesse, obviously, I think I brought his name up. I think this is my 3rd time bringing him up. He's obviously my best friend. We talk all the time, and he helps me out a lot. I help him out a lot. All that good stuff. We used to work for Brandon Steiner. Brandon Steiner came on the show. That was obviously really cool. He gave me some great advice. The first kind of big one that made all my friends and maybe all my players say, "Oh my God, John's doing something cool," is when Bone Collector came on episode 15. Obviously, because he has 1 million followers on Instagram, all that good. Like he responded. He'd never done a podcast before, and he came on and did mine. So that was a huge one. That really got a lot of buzz around the freshmen. Howard Beck came on episode 23. Those were kind of all. It's funny, all the early guests. It's because it was before the NBA season. The timing was just perfect. Like Howard Beck was transitioning from Bleacher Report to Sports Illustrated. Tommy Shepard, who came on episode 27, obviously he's another huge guest. He came on because the Wizards season hasn't started yet. If I reached out to him now, obviously it wouldn't happen, but this was October. George Mirasan. It was funny. Episodes 23, 25, 27. Howard Beck, George Mirasan, Tommy Shepard. Like that was when I still to this day, I mean, I haven't had a guest lineup like that because of the, with the season going on and stuff. But that was an insane week. I mean, George Mirasan, he's 7'7", tallest player in NBA history. He was kind of the perfect fit for Big Fellas Basketball. And let me think. I mean, my first NBA assistant coach was Brian Bailey in episode 21 from the Utah. I mean, you can tell I'm a psychopath. I know this off the top of my head. He was episode number 21 from the Utah Jazz. Greg St. Jean came on episode 34 from the Los Angeles Lakers. They just won the championship. That was really cool. And that was a fun conversation. Let me think. Obviously Drew Hanlon episode 50. I'm leaving out so many great people. I'm just thinking about like the ones where like I was getting a lot of texts about and that sort of thing. And then with Gen Z Hoops, there were some, I mean, Sandy Brindello and my WNBA coaches. Let me think. Oh man, Ronnie Burrell from the Bulls. Tate Carter from the Pacers. Obviously, he had such a crazy story with breaking his neck in high school. And still playing Division I basketball, and obviously now coaching for the Pacers. Like that was insane. Cameron Woods, I just had him on. He's works for the Thunder in player development. Dean Oliver, I miss Dean Oliver. I've been reaching out to him. He was episode 85. I've been reaching out to him since August. And in August, I reached out to him on LinkedIn, asked him to come on the show, and he responded right away. And he's like the guru of data analytics. And I was like, oh my God, this is huge. Dean Oliver's gonna come on the show. And we kept on trying. I kept on emailing him. He'd say, yes, John, can't wait to come on. This week works. Then like maybe wouldn't respond for like, I love Dean Oliver. He's the man. He's so cool. But I mean, obviously he's super busy. And this is like a story about networking. Or persistence. Didn't respond for like 2-3 days. And then all of a sudden, this week doesn't work anymore. Okay, try the next week. Okay, that doesn't work anymore. Now he goes, okay, try me again in a month. I'll try again in a month. That didn't work. He's like, you know what? When the season starts, let's find a road stretch, right? When I'm on the road, that's easier. Season comes, road stretch. John, practice came up. Let's move it again. Like, we kept on moving it. Finally got him on in March. That was incredible just because of the persistence and just like the gratification of like, okay, I finally got him on. That was a lot of fun. It was kind of like Pokemon, you got to catch them all. That was kind of like the feeling of like, finally did that. Nick Lage's episode 90 was probably, oh my God, the networking clinic he put on how to network effectively. And Nick's also a really good friend. And he's just so nice in reaching out and giving me so much advice. But Nick was obviously a huge one as well. Brian Walsh is getting recorded today. He'll be episode 100, posted on Saturday. So Brian Walsh, he has some great stories also from the Lakers. The Lakers organization has been great to me, by the way. I don't know what's New York and the Nets. I had on David Resnick from the Westchester Knicks. He's the play-by-play announcer, but no one else from the Knicks or Nets has shown me any love. I'm not sure why that's been the case. The Lakers on the other side of the coast and defending champions I've had 5 or 6 of their coaches or executives on. So they've been good to me. The Cavs have been good to me. I'm not sure why New York and the Nets have this vendetta against me. But anyways, there's been so many guests that just obviously mean the world to me. And obviously every single one of them, if you come on my show, you're obviously a very good person because you're not doing it for views. You're not doing it for publicity. I maybe have like 1 or 2 guests come on and like promote their book. And like, I could tell like they tried to wrap up the interview and like really want, but that maybe like 1% of my guests do that. The other 99%, that aren't just doing it because it's on their schedule and their secretary put it up or whatever. That might be like 1% of my guests. 99% of my guests are phenomenal human beings who just saw that a 20-year-old kid is grinding and wants to work in the front office someday and wants to make connections and wants to, for a lot of them, make good content. Right? A lot of these G League coaches don't have content on themselves. So I come along and I'm like, you know what? Like Cameron Woods, he's a 27-year-old G League coach and there's no content on him. There's nothing like if you look him up, right? There's nothing, but he's so cool. He played it for the OKC Blue. He played there for a few years. Then he was coaching for the Blue right after, right? Then 2 years later, he's coaching on the Thunder, right? That's mind-boggling. His story is so cool. And he was obviously a recent guest. Like, why isn't he going on people's shows? Like, that just makes no sense to me. So there's so many guests like that I'm like, your story is so like Tate Carter, right? Broke his neck, still played Division I basketball. And these are all recent guests. I mean, there's so many more that just off the top of my head. There's just been so many guests. It's so hard to name all of them. And obviously, I don't want this podcast to be 4 hours long. Like we said at the beginning, I want to try to control myself on here. But really, I mean, it's just there's so many. They're just all great people, and that's what I would say. And that's what. And like obviously, I've reached out to thousands of people in my LinkedIn connection right now. My invites that are currently pending. There's about 2,000 invites that are sent out right now that I'm waiting to hear back from. And those invites are just a fraction of the probably 20,000 I've sent out over the last few months. Might be more than 20,000 because I do the whole like removing connections, sending connections out again thing every 3 weeks when LinkedIn allows me to. We could talk about that too. My LinkedIn kind of like whole master plan is it's a little crazy. It's a little scary, but it works. But like that's kind of what it takes. But think about it, out of those 20,000 invites I've sent out, I've had on 90 or 100 guests, right? That's a super small success rate, But I mean, I couldn't be happier because all those people that come on are great friends and great people.
That's amazing. Real quick, what is some of your future plans? And then what advice would you give upcoming podcasts?
Oh, I mean, I would hope that what I just said was an advice clinic. I mean, obviously, I definitely give more. I mean, my advice, just to get that out of the way, just because I'm so passionate about that. My advice is find your passion and just attack it, right? Like I said at the beginning, like just start. A lot of people will tell you that. I mean, I think a lot of people just say that kind of like nonchalantly, like, oh, just do it, work hard. Like those are all very cliches that I think people just kind of zone out. I'm here to tell you, like, whatever you're thinking of, like, okay, like you should be mad at yourself that you missed out on the opportunity during quarantine. Like so mad. And obviously the best time to plant a tree is 10 years ago, right? The second best time to plant a tree is right now. Right. Okay. So it's not the best time because you could have done it 10 years ago. Right. Obviously, it's not the best time for you to launch a podcast because the podcast has been on for a while. That's for me. Right. When I started my show, it's almost been a year ago. I was upset because I'd heard all these people talk about how podcasting is now too mainstream and it's oversaturated and there's so many shows and like the real time to get in was 2017 or whatever, 20 whatever. Like who cares what 20? It's like I said, 20 whatever. Like who cares? It's still right. It's still 20 something. Like, start a show, do something. You'll be so happy for it. And the biggest thing, in terms of like making it tangible, I'm not going to tell you start and not tell you how. Get past episode 7. There's a study that 90% of podcasts do not make it past episode 7. Obviously, those shows are very small. And you don't know about them. Obviously, there's shows, obviously, not that mine's one of the biggest, but like with 100 plus. There's shows with 1,000 plus, like Dre Baldwin's. There's shows with a lot. But that's a very small percentage. Most shows, they do a few episodes, and that's it. And they never go back to them. A huge percentage of shows don't get past episode 7. And I was almost one of those, I was almost victim to that. In July, August, like I said at the beginning, I was doing my show. I love doing it. And it was fun. It was fun on this. It was like a fun thing to do, but like, it wasn't cool. Right? People made fun of the name, people made fun of whatever. And it made me a little self-conscious, right? I mean, still, I'm a little older than I was when I was younger. That maybe that would really bother me, but it still was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not having cool guests on. What's that? Like, people don't know what a podcast is. Like girls at parties, right? They're like, you have a podcast? Like, that's not cool, right? Like that's what it kind of felt like. Now it's a brand, it's a show. Now it's cool, right? Now it's easy for me to say, oh, start a podcast, right? But I can tell, I understand that it's hard at the beginning. I totally get that. I totally get that you're gonna have a month or two where it's unclear and it's cloudy. But if you listen to this episode, I just gave you the blueprint on how to reach out to people on LinkedIn, right? I mean, obviously, if you listen to this, if you're trying to think of who are the good people that are gonna reach out to you, it's people that I had on my show, right? Those are the people that are good people that are going to respond to you because they responded to me. Now, maybe not all of them will, but obviously a lot of them, like I said, are very good people. And they're trying to help out young professionals and young people. That's what it's all about. I can go on that forever, but please, whatever you're thinking of doing, if like one big thing is that we're all time. I like this saying a lot. Is that all of us are time billionaires? If you ask any billionaire, if they would give $1 billion to go back 30 years, they'd all say yes. Now, the reason I say 30 years is because a billion years is equal, a billion years. A billion seconds, right, is 30 years, which if you equate dollars to seconds, right, that's how many seconds are in 30 years. So if you think of that, right, I'm even asking you, would you give up 30 years of your life and now be 50 or 60? Just to have a lot of money and, no, you wouldn't, like, no one would do that. Like everyone, you want to experience your 20s, 30s, 40s, right? You want to experience life, right? You want to have that. And think about if someone with that much money would give up all that money to be where you are now, think about how rich you are, right? How rich you are in time, right? In time, in seconds, in time, in dollars, whatever you want to call it, that you're loaded, right? If you're listening to this and you're young, right, you're loaded with money. Don't waste that money and burn that money and then regret not spending it the way you wanted to, right? Spend that money wisely, spend that time, right? Like it's not just, this isn't like a hard work rant. This is a practical, like, take a step back, look at everything in totality and say, okay, how do I do what don't even focus on the destination, focus on the journey. Like one big advice I'd give, Nick Lay just gave it on my show a couple of days ago. It kind of ties into everything I just said. Is enjoy the process, right? Everyone's focused on, I want to be a GM, I want to do this. And sure, maybe that's a goal, but I know that destination can change, right? I might get to a level and say, you know what, maybe I'm not interested. I might actually experience it and say, I'm not interested in that. What's better is to say, this is the process, right? When I'm 30, I'm going to say, you know what, those were the days, man, when I was 20 years old and I was grinding doing this podcast, right? That's what it's the feel, it's the editing the shows, it's the reaching out to guests. Like, that's what I'm going to remember. I'm not going to say, oh, remember when I was 29 and I had on that big guest? Like that's not what's gonna mean anything. It's the process. It's the grind. It's what that is. So that's the biggest thing for me. And I'm sorry, I went on for a tangent. What was the first thing you would ask me? And then I went off on the whole advice thing because that's just what I'm passionate about.
That's fine. I asked what advice, but now where can my listeners find you at on social media?
Oh, so I try to make it as easy as possible. The show's everywhere at Gen Z Hoops. And then the network's at Gen Z Podcast Network or Gen Z Pod Network, depending on the platform and like how the letters are spelled out. But definitely that's going to be starting up soon. Hopefully, like you can find all the other shows, Gen Z Warriors, Gen Z Rockets on the same platforms. I'm kind of everywhere. Instagram, Twitter. Like if you go to my Instagram and you click on my link tree, you'll see everything like TikTok, all that stuff. Definitely have to do some more on some platforms like that. We're on IMDb, which is really cool. And that's a huge piece I give you too, Brandon. Put your show on IMDb. And you're a celebrity at that point, right? You're an actor. So I'm a director, producer, all the above. And the show's on IMDb and people can go and see it because it's got episodes and it's got all this stuff and you can kind of link out to it. And when you type it in, like it comes up on IMDb, it looks pretty cool. So that's another piece of advice. There's a lot of advice I can give on like how to start a show, like tactically. And anyone listening, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. My Instagram is j.hart21. That's j.hart 21. 21. So definitely DM me there, reach out to me. I'm on my phone all the time. And it's not that I'm obsessed with my phone. I just take pride in responding quickly, and my Apple Watch, the whole thing. Like I'm kind of just like, and it might be scary and overbearing for some people. I am just so all in on this. And I'm not gonna come on your show, Brandon, right, and be like, yeah, Brandon, I have a show. Right? If the words I said, maybe the words I said were hopefully they helped someone. But if the words I said were on a transcript and you read them, maybe you'd take value because it was maybe it was good advice. I don't know if it was. I hope it was. But I would hope that the way I say it is what really makes it stick, right? It's not like, right, if I just came up here and said the same thing I just said and I was super quiet and I was like, yeah, Brandon, I have a show. It's cool. Oh, yeah, I did this on like, oh, this was my best guess. Like, and I was super quiet about it. Like, that's not fun. No one enjoys that. It's the fire, it's the passion that makes this all worth it. So, that's kind of where everyone can find me. And I really appreciate everyone for listening to this tirade of just passion.
Thank you again. And you can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Gen Z, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.